Imagine a small media empire led by a single man crumbling as a result of a controversy so damning that it doesn't just jeopardize his career, but forces him to seek legal counsel when his fans and his friends all begin turning on him, as he can't decide between staying silent as per the requests of his lawyers, and apparently losing his mind between throwing out threats, victim blaming people whose lives he might have ruined, and banning both his friends and some of the most loyal, long-standing members of his community when they had the gall to recommend therapy, as well as banning frankly anyone who so much as dares call him what he is, a serial abuser who belongs on the sex offender registry. Now imagine that the sensationalism that surrounds this story caused several people covering it to not only do so without a single care for the victim, which frankly is common and not the biggest issue, but rather in a way that harms the victim even more. Today's video will include the broad overview of the stories of multiple victims, with one in particular who through no fault of her own had their entire life turned upside down as Destiny, or Stephen Bonnell II, whose degenerate pervertry in the form of sex addiction and lack of care for consent certainly justifies the cause for putting him on some kind of a list, has been discovered to have sent private sex tapes he records of people having sex with him to third parties without ever asking for the consent of the people in these recordings. This much we know for a fact, as he's admitted to it. What now has also surfaced are allegations that ended up becoming a formal police report that some women Stephen recorded weren't even aware he's recording them to begin with. Then, once all of that is done, we will briefly talk about the people defending Destiny, what I believe their motivations are, and whether they're worth taking seriously or not. This situation has been unfolding for over a week now, with new things happening every single day. It's not possible to give a detailed accounting of everything relevant in a relatively short YouTube video, but I'll try my best to outline the general gist of things and my feelings about what took place. Enjoy. Stephen Bonnell II, online known as Destiny, is an influential political commentator and a media personality known for political debate, where he employs a very aggressive style of debate that meshes well with his strong, sometimes downright cruel personality. He is also known for many dramas and controversies, often of sexual nature, surrounding his personal and professional lives, which are often really one and the same. Around November 29th, a series of leaks have appeared on Kiwi Farms which contained a large number of Discord text messages between Destiny and his at the time 19-year-old Discord kitten, whom he both considered a close friend and indicatively wanted to have sex with. These DMs also contained a number of videos and links to external video galleries that showcase Destiny having sex with a number of people, both men and women. If you exist in similar internet spaces to me, you might remember exactly when this happened, because the very video of Destiny giving fellatio to a man contained in these leaks is what everyone was joking around to be Destiny having sex with Nick Fuentes, a well-known half-Mexican white supremacist whom Destiny briefly had a professional relationship with. Because of the overall ridiculousness of the headlines that followed, many of the other leaks were swept under the rug as this quote-unquote hacking incident of his friend's Discord account was addressed. But you see, it was only called a hacking incident by none other than Destiny, who has proven to be a very unreliable narrator trying to control the flow of information, as we later managed to get our hands on these messages, which indicate that Destiny believes this quote-unquote hacker might not have been a hacker at all, but rather the boyfriend of the aforementioned Discord kitten Destiny was flirting with. He admitted to having sent those sex tapes over willingly. Do remember this when we get to the enlightened innocent until proven guilty morons down the line. To reiterate, Destiny had sent sex tapes he recorded of people having sex with him to a 19-year-old Discord kitten without ever asking for the consent of the people in these recordings, which begs the question, if he was dumb enough to send them to her, who else did he feel comfortable sending them to? This incessant Kuma desire of his have led to a pool of victims that is broadening out by the day. Before we talk about them though, what I want to showcase is a pretty detailed timeline I have found which might give you an insight into how casual this behavior is for him. A user on the farms has compiled a timeline down to the minute accounting for time zone differences and daylight savings time to show how Destiny was in fact live streaming when he shared some of the sex tapes, with one of them being sent as he takes a quick 10-second phone break after he dies to a boss in Elden Ring, And another instance where he sends the Discord kitten a video of, I believe, himself jerking off as he is on a debate panel with multiple other people. To be clear, he sent the video of himself jerking off, not that he was doing it whilst on that debate panel. But at this point, I mean, God knows. It's not that I particularly care to victimize the people there, as they were unwittingly playing a role in Destiny's King, which I believe is the case based on us having access to a different sets of DMs, where Destiny and a 19-year-old talk about him wearing an anal plug while live streaming. I'm just pointing this out so that you can understand the person we're talking about, and how he is so fucking addicted that every waking moment, every distraction, every moment of silence is to him an opportunity to not just think about sex, but to send sex tapes and stuff over to other people he might be flirting with at the time. Since this story has broken, the fallout from it has been nothing but tremendous. I'm not just talking about his enemies taking a victory lap, as that is to be expected, but more specifically about a substantial chunk of his community and close friends cutting ties, disavowing, and outright attacking him for his degeneracy. In some cases, these attacks going as far as, and I agree with this to be clear, saying that Stephen should be put on the Florida Sex Offender Registry. It is worthwhile to remember that when this dropped, this was the third incident of this exact nature. The first one being many years ago when he sent the nudes of a woman named Blue Tea to a Skype group chat to have a laugh about how unattractive her face was compared to her body, and the second time being much more recently when it happened with his, at the time, wife Melina, and how he sent the sex tapes they made together to people without her consent. Right before we jump into the victim pool of those wronged by Destiny, there is yet another important lie of his I want to dispel early on. The lie that all of this is in the past and that Vyvanse cured him. First of all, while a loss of libido can be a side effect for Vyvanse,
I will give you one negative side effect of Vyvanse, okay? Warning, okay? This is a negative side effect of Vyvanse, okay? Be very, very, very careful. I don't know if this is everybody or just me, okay? Be very, very, very careful, because you can unironically fall into a gooning black hole, I think, if you're on amphetamines. You could decide to masturbate at 6 o'clock, and then it's 10 o'clock, and you don't even know how the fuck that happened, okay?
Second of all, if anyone wants, then they can blame high libido as a contributing factor to this entire mess all they want. But the issue here isn't that Destiny is fucking a lot, or flirting a lot, or down bad all the time. The issue is that he doesn't remotely care about consent when it comes to recording people and then spreading those recordings around. Vyvanse ain't gonna cure that shit unless you're trying to tell me that it's basically the equivalent of chemical castration. And even then, I'm not buying it. Maybe therapy would help, but we will never know because Stephen has already made it clear that he's not going to go down that path. But you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can tell me. Does Vyvanse only stop your desire to send sex tapes without people's consent? Or does it stop you wanting to record them without consent too? Like, I knew it works pretty well when it's, you know, prescribed for ADHD, but I just didn't realize it's a miracle drug, you know? I wonder how many sex offenders throughout the course of human history we could have avoided if we just had access to Vyvanse a little earlier on.
First of all, many thanks for being a friend to my daughter.
Yeah, no problem.
She doesn't have any friends.
That's not true. You're
No,
so
she has a
mean.
shit ton of friends.
Okay.
But she appreciates your friendship.
Cool.
And I appreciate that. That you are friends.
Thanks. Well, I try my best. I'm a friendly person, you know?
The clip I just played for you was Pixie's father thanking Stephen for his friendship with her. Pixie is a small social media personality, used to be a good friend of Destiny's, and is one of his victims. In the leaks that dropped on Kiwi Farms, Pixie was one of the few people who were very identifiable. Initially, she privated her social media account and went radio silent to try and deal with the situation privately, as was her right. Unfortunately for Pixie though, due to these leaks being public and due to Straight Raid, a person whom Pixie considered a friend leaking a very significant portion of their private conversations about this topic to online drama peddlers, Pixie was robbed of her ability to deal with this behind the scenes. 2 videos were released in tandem, one from President Sunday and one from Cope and Seath, both of which, with no concern for her anonymity, referred to Pixie by name and showcased a large amount of behind-the-scenes conversations that forced Pixie to make a public statement. It is very worth keeping in mind that despite the existence of messages where Pixie talks about committing suicide if her parents find out about the leaks, which both of those creators had access to, they didn't give Pixie a heads up before their videos went live and were collectively watched by now over 120,000 people. It didn't dawn on two adults that they're about to break a story about a potentially suicidal girl whose sex tapes can easily be found and seen by hundreds of thousands of people, while also dropping on her that they know about a ton of behind the scenes stuff because her own friend betrayed her trust, and so maybe it'd be nice for, to give her a heads up that her life is about to become very public. Or maybe it did dawn on them. Maybe one of them in particular was very aware of the potential consequences that Pixie will have to deal with. More on that later though. Following the public outing of this entire situation, Pixie released a Substack article where she outlines she'll be suing Stephen Kenneth Bonnell II. She talks about how she knows she's at least the third person this has happened to. She cites the specific paragraph under which she's suing. She explains the necessity for a public suit due to Destiny's growing influence and plans for a social media empire, and even provides screenshots from their DMs under the headline of Evidence Log, where she outlines that she had to reach out to Stephen first to get any sort of a response about the situation, how he downplayed her concerns, and how he offered to pay some bills to quote-unquote help out. The link to Pixie's Substack will be available in the description down below for you to peruse at your own leisure. Pixie has also given us a link to a Give Send Go campaign that has already raised almost $50,000 out of the $120,000 goal that will go towards financing the lawsuit. The link for this campaign will also be in the description down below. The reason why I played you the clip of her father thanking Destiny for their friendship wasn't just to play on your emotions. If you read through the Substack, you'll find out that Pixie was 19 when she met Destiny. She was barely an adult when she became his friend. When he would talk about the importance of consent, boundaries, and healthy relationships, she was there listening. She spent 5 years being close to him. He was probably a very significant figure in her life. She allowed herself to be vulnerable around him. Let's listen to Destiny's own opinion on these kinds of power dynamics from a few years ago.
People are upset
that
because
is
people
why.
kept this under wrap for decades because it was impossible for a woman to come out and say anything. When people talk about the existence of rape culture, this is the kind of stuff they point to. If you're a woman and somebody in a position of power propositions you for sex, you don't really have the ability to consent, yes or no. And if you decide to not consent to that kind of activity, well, now you're going to face repercussions in your job. This is in a whole other host of ways.
They could say no.
No.
At the end of the day, Pixie's story is one of many about a betrayal at the hands of a person in position of power for whom nothing matters nearly as much as his desire for sex. My heart goes out to Pixie, and I do wish her luck in the many trials yet to come. A public lawsuit always summons public scrutiny, but I hope she perseveres. Sherry is yet another of Stephen's victims. Unlike in Pixie's case, the betraying of her trust didn't come from Destiny sending her sex tapes around. Sadly, what it did come from are audio recordings of her and Stephen having sex that she didn't give him permission to record to begin with. Now, make no mistake, it is not my intention to make this into some victim Olympics. Frankly, I wouldn't really know where to begin determining which is worse and which is better, but I also don't think it's for us to determine. The bottom line is that it's simply more evidence that Destiny deserves to be on a sex offender registry. This information didn't even come from a public leak. Cherry herself told us that 2 different women reached out to her after they had heard about the kinds of accusations that Destiny is facing, and they came to the realization that the videos and recordings they obtained from him when he was flirting with them might have also been sent without the consent of the people in these videos and recordings. As it turns out, they were right on the money. Not only is Cherry another victim in this, her statement also confirms that Destiny sent sex tapes to far more women than just his 19-year-old Discord kitten. Cherry also said that she'll be filing a police report and pressing charges in the same tweet in which she told us that Destiny blocked and banned her, and she's only speaking publicly because speaking to him privately was no longer an option, or rather an option that he specifically denied her. She further explains in a different tweet how she tried reaching out to Stephen multiple times as the situation was unfolding, and how he blocked her after she told him that she's still upset he isn't responding. This creates a narrative that is in stark opposition to Destiny's claim from his first livestream since the news broke. I've seen a number of people say that Cherry has provided no evidence and that she cannot be trusted based solely on her word, but based on the fact that she is a yet another victim, I believe her. I also believe her unapologetically, as I've been informed that while she doesn't want to make the recordings public, for obvious reasons really, she has shared them with another content creator affiliated with Destiny named JStalk, who is a friend of hers, and since listening to these recordings, he has come out against Destiny very aggressively, and he has nothing to gain by burning his bridge with Destiny. So if this story was made up, there'd be no incentive for him to jump on board. I believe her, and I wish Cherry luck in seeking justice. A third victim, who has only just come forward very recently, is Stasia. I might be mispronouncing her name. She goes by Curiosity Killed the Cacti on Twitter, where she stated that her trust was egregiously violated and that a lot of her private, intimate and sexual material was in fact sent to multiple people without her being aware or having ever consented. She stated she's dealing with this legally and that she wishes to never have anything to do with Steven again. On top of Pixie, Cherry and Stasia, we also have Melina, Steven's ex-wife, who he admitted to having sent the sex tapes off without her consent. We have Blue Tea, whose nudes he shared years and years ago, and we have God knows how many women and men behind the scenes who aren't coming forward because their sex tapes either haven't been leaked yet, or they're simply not identifiable in the ones that were leaked. Because of the sheer number of times Destiny didn't bother to ask, it's, in my opinion, perfectly plausible to assume he simply never bothered to ask. While the most important part of this story are the victims, who should always be on the forefront, there is a number of people affiliated with Destiny who deserve scrutiny for a wide variety of reasons. One of those people is Not So Erudite, who is the first sweeper I'll talk about and probably one of few whose situation is the most complicated. Despite her being caught between a rock and a hard place, all the blame that fell on her was ultimately her own fault.
I guess because I see actually tons of markers of him caring about people and also being negligent and bad when it comes to sexual relations. I see tons of evidence of him caring about people.
Okay.
Not So Erudite was, or is, a small content creator who would frequently call into Destiny's stream and share her thoughts on a number of matters. This has ultimately led to her becoming a co-host on her and Steven's podcast show, Bridges. She had just recently immigrated into the US, she needs this job, and Destiny is literally her boss. She goes too hard against him and she might not meet her financial obligations, which means that she might even get deported. She doesn't swing hard enough and she's effectively covering up a crime. When we initially discovered her deleting comments asking questions about the leaks before they became public knowledge, a lot of people, myself included for the record, assumed she was doing it to bail out Destiny. When we saw the text messages between her and Pixie for the first time, where she was essentially the middleman between Pixie and Steven to determine how much Pixie will get paid for her silence, we assumed she's sort of the Ghislaine Maxwell to Destiny's Epstein. What we didn't know at the time is that Pixie had asked her for help. We didn't know that Pixie requested she helps her keep her anonymity. Unfortunately, even if Not So Erudite wanted to do right by Pixie and by Destiny, she also didn't choose to recuse herself, and the path that she did choose would also work out the best for her career, and it's difficult to judge to what degree this might have clouded her judgment. Erudite prides herself on being better than that. Here we have a clip during her conversation with Turkey Tom where she tells us that she believed Steven was genuinely apologetic and felt bad and that this will not happen again.
The moment that I saw like remorsefulness, accountability, and like a step-by-step plan of like how he was going to correct the issue, that's when I was like, okay, I can still work with this person because it's like the try and the accountability that matters to me, not just like the actions alone.
This was, in hindsight, a really regrettable sentiment, as it was less than 48 hours later that Destiny was ranting in DGG about how he doesn't need therapy, that Pixie is just in this for money, and that if he goes down, he's taking 20 people down with him. And if that wasn't bad enough by itself, we also at that point got the word from Cherry about how there are now also cases of women who didn't even consent to being recorded to begin with. Not to mention that this was the third time we know that Destiny has done something like this. How could Erudite have blindly believed him? I've heard people say that it's because Erudite doesn't read leaks and doesn't do lore, so she was unaware of the extent of the Kiwi Farms leaks and, well, Destiny's past. And even if this is true, and I'm willing to move forward as though it is, that creates a really stupid blind spot given how closely tethered her career was to Steven's. I say was because I do believe now that she's dropped him completely as she became aware of the extent of the allegations. But frankly, if you attach your career to a sex pest who is constantly embroiled in controversy and you're gullible enough to trust his word as you're simultaneously too proud or otherwise biased to read up on leaks from the big bad Kiwi Farms website, then whose fault is that other than your own? Ultimately, whatever her feelings deep down might have been, she tried playing this off in a way that would have been most beneficial to her career, and she failed in doing so. That deserves scrutiny. I don't envy her situation, but she should have acted smarter than she did.
Versus trying to get rid of him forever, right? Like, these people want Steve to be fucking canceled forever when he's someone that literally is making the world, I think, like, a better place. To my fellow orbiters or coworkers, if you're some fucking one of my coworkers out there and you're making your little bit of a strong statement about how much you condemn Destiny and everything else, you better not let me fucking find you doing something else and signing some other bullshit off for someone else. All this is just virtue signaling fucking bullshit, okay? It's like, because it's like, oh my god, sharing nudes? Okay, I'm out of here immediately.
Dan is Destiny's best friend, so I can, on some level at least, understand what he's doing and why he's doing it, even if I disagree. That being said, Destiny makes the world a better place. Does he objectively? Does it even matter? I know he tries to with his political escapades, but level with me for a moment. He attached himself to the Mark Gudgel campaign in Nebraska, and that then went to shit as a result of his reputation. He practically gave birth to Hassan's political career, and that by itself is fucking criminal. He interviewed Democratic candidates who will now potentially have to deal with the fallout of his unfolding controversy. He went to Israel to shed a new light on many parts of the conflict. Those videos were never released. He committed himself to the January 6th video to outline how Donald Trump is responsible for an insurrection. Trump is the president now, and that video is still nowhere to be seen. Don't get me wrong, I know there are things like Destiny objectively fighting for the good thing when it comes to things like Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Destiny's many debates on the topic. I'm aware of things like the DGG fundraising to help frontline volunteers in Ukraine, or the many canvassing events, but even all of that is now tainted because nothing remotely matters more to him than satisfying the hunger of the Shai Hulud he keeps between his legs. And Dan is gonna sit there and tell me that Destiny is capable of more good than bad? Like, fuck off. What is this? A Dave Chappelle skit? The superhero who saves but sometimes also rapes? Evil is evil, Dan. Lesser, greater, middling. It's all the same. Proportions are negotiated, boundaries blurred. Now, I'm not a pious hermit. I haven't done only good in my life, but if I'm to choose between one evil and another, then I prefer not to choose at all. Are all of these victims meant to be a worthy price to pay for a streamer who has good political takes? Is this really where the bar is at? Have we really stooped down so low? Steven's media company project is dead in the water. Both his enemies on the right and on the left will now be able to run more effective campaigns to stop prominent politicians from speaking with him, and the DNC won't touch him with a poo stick. In terms of raw optics, he lost the ability to criticize a large chunk of people out there, but I guess we'll look past that because his best friend is sticking by him. Oh, Connor. I don't know how to do a good TLDR on this man. I wouldn't even know about the infamous stream of Connor from Counterpoints and Brianna Wu if I wasn't recommended to watch it live on my own stream because of how ridiculous it was. So all I'ma say is this. Maybe if you're doing a joint stream with a fellow content creator where one of you is funded by Progressive Victory, a political PAC that the other used to be a spokesperson for before she was booted, the very same PAC, by the way, that Stephen also supports, then maybe do not spend the first 40 minutes of the 3-hour stream talking about how sad Stephen's upbringing is. Maybe there's a time and place to explore empathy towards the sex offender, and this just ain't it. Maybe don't keep reiterating that if Pixie has evidence, she should take the legal route when everyone in chat wants to hear an ethics-based take. Maybe don't try and both sides things by constantly reiterating that both Destiny and Pixie are your friends. What the fuck is wrong with you, my boy? It is a good watch though, especially when Queeman and Lav call in to try and figure out what Connor believes, and his response is, well, to be completely logically inconsistent. Then he threatens Queeman with physical violence and then drops a slur. Truly a train wreck for the history books that I highly encourage you all to watch.
Queeman, in real life, I would eat you. Like, you are 5'2" and you weigh 110 pounds. I could choke you with one hand and I could eat your body in a single meal. So don't say coward, don't say bitch, don't say pussy, because if you ever came within 6 feet of me, you would die.
And now on to Brianna Wu. Initially, I was going to talk about Brianna and Connor together on account of the tragic joint stream that I've just mentioned, but Brianna just can't help being absolutely retarded on main. As this story was happening, Brianna dropped the worst statement yet, where she says that she likes both Destiny and Pixie, that she isn't going to take sides, and that, and I fucking quote, adulting can be awkward like this. And if that already wasn't stupid as hell, when she gets called out for her morally reprehensible statement by a person who has in the past accused Destiny of sexual impropriety, she responded by calling her, and I am again quoting this, an eager disposable fuck for a streamer. When I saw this for the first time, I thought it was remarkable. It might have been one of the worst statements on this topic at the time. Even now, days later, I don't know if anything from a semi-prominent content creator that comes even close to this absolute shit show has dropped. She even said she offered no opinion on this privately. Her only take on this was going to be a public take, and it was this. Fucking oof. And finally, in terms of individuals at least, I've left the dumbest for last. Darius. Alright, this one's going to be a quick one. If you haven't been following this story, then Darius doesn't really matter. Just maybe if you're a woman, remember this face and keep in mind he's unsafe to be around. And if you have been following this story, you've probably seen Darius carry incredible levels of water for Destiny by jumping into various calls with his very strong opinion based on very strong feelings that aren't even remotely fact-based, only to be BTFO'd in real time because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Darius is an imbecile. He's always been an imbecile, and he always will be an imbecile. He's fun to watch, much in the same sense that you might want to stop and watch two bums fighting under a liquor store. It's a wacky and somewhat out of the ordinary event in your life, but at the end of the day, it's very little but a trash can on fire. Anything you hear from him on this topic, you can safely disregard. And here's a clip just for fun.
Hold on, do you think Destiny could reasonably infer that Pixie would be borderline suicidal, somebody who had issues with suicidality, if he just went to Twitter and posted her nudes there? Do you think he could realize that?
That she would be suicidal if her nudes are posted on Twitter? Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so then why did Destiny put the ability to do that in somebody else's hands when she trusted him not to?
That doesn't matter after she tried to literally character sign the Substack. Because she's now trying to attack him in a Substack.
Hold on,
and say
the nudes were released before the Substack.
I'm sorry, the nudes don't have anything to do with...
The nudes were sent before the Substack.
That has nothing to do with what I'm just now talking about. What I'm talking about is you saying that he is... Fuck, oh my god, this is so fucking retarded.
I have earlier spoken about how most of Destiny's close friends are against him on this. Most of his streaming buddies have completely cut ties, and a substantial chunk of the DGG community finds him absolutely reprehensible and vile, with more than one calling for him to be put on a sex offender registry. This is important to keep in mind, but what is also important is to keep a track of the future to see if this even withstand the test of time. DGG gets relentlessly shit on by everyone when the reality is that when Stephen's actions came to light, his own community was seemingly so against him that his Reddit had to be locked down and people massively banned due to the sheer amount of rightful, justified, and deserved hate against him. That being said, DGG has been dubbed as cult-like, and as with most stories, there is truth to that. There are numerous screenshots, like this one for example from Destiny's Twitter group, which reads "Fuck all the Orbiters, Tom, Abba, J-Stock and Pisco. If you want to distance yourself, go ahead, like Josiah did, but the virtue signaling and making videos to dunk on him is so shitty. No friend would ever do that. It's all about clout and money." And this is not at all an uncommon sentiment within DGG. A lot of people in that community bounce on Destiny's cock so hard that they'd be honoured to have the video footage of it happening be leaked to the public. The truth is that no friend should ever put you in a position where you even have to disavow your ties because they're a sex offender. It's not the Orbiters here who fucked up, it's Destiny, and it's only Destiny. There is an example like this one, which is, I believe, an auto-modded comment from Nicholas Diorio, which reads, "Lonerbox, who is Pixie's boyfriend, plainly debunks all of the lies these drama maggots are peddling. I guess your next video will be victim's boyfriend betrays her and sides with Destiny. You are a spineless hack, Diorio. History will remember you as just another online reactionary you and audience hate so much." Now, this is a particularly strange comment because Lonerbox didn't debunk all the lies. He actually explicitly said that he is with the victims, he's cutting all the ties with Destiny, and he wants nothing to do with him or his cunt behavior. I don't know what this person was thinking. I don't. And there are a lot of people like him. And a final example that I'll bring up, which also comes from Destiny's Twitter community, from Kevin F567 saying, "Very disappointed in @NotSoErudite. She owes so much to Destiny and she couldn't be there for him when he needed her most. Fair weather friend. I hope Destiny ditches her for good. It's not like she'd be tough to replace. Dan, on the other hand, in the trenches, what a friend." To which Pepe Shark Boy, going by Kekistan apparently, responded with, "Stuff got leaked in December. The only reason she cares now is because it's public." And Kev responded with, "Yep, weak and cowardly. Now she'll have no one to defend her if she ever does anything stupid." Now, to be clear, and for what it's worth, I know I don't have to debunk any of these comments. Like, I know that all of you are pretty aware at this point that nothing about this makes any sense. Kevin is very clearly mentally fucking disabled, and describing what Destiny did as something stupid when it is in fact criminal is just... fuck me. The reason why I showed you all of that and why I mentioned the test of time is because there is no doubt that once Destiny is back to regular streaming, a significant portion of his audience will be there still. It's a wait and see kind of a situation, but given that I've mentioned a number of times in this video how people affiliated with Destiny have cut ties with him and how his own community is against him, it's important that you guys also see the many cases of those who support him still. And make no mistakes, these people are attacking all the victims too. Alright, so I kind of lied earlier. Darius, in fact, is not the dumbest person in this arc of a story. You know how in many religions there is this harbinger, a symbol, if you will, of the pending apocalypse, a sign that the end is nigh? Apparently both Myron Gaines from the Fresh and Fit podcast and Pearl Davis from the Depths of Unwanted Hell Where Pygmies Go to Die Alone have voiced their opinions on the topic. Pearly by calling Abba a snake for disavowing Destiny and burning the bridge, and Myron by attacking Pixie for, well, being a woman. It's no wonder that the Manosphere grift is so profitable when you can be discovered to have spread sex tapes around without consent to share them or even record them to begin with. You can admit to having done it, you can have a history of sexual impropriety, and these people will still jump in to defend you. Sort of makes you wonder what kind of skeletons they might have in their closet. The only thing we're missing here is Hitler coming forward and tweeting about Destiny having done nothing wrong. Oh wait, he did. There are many other sweepers that I likely either forgot about or didn't include due to how insignificant their coverage was, broadly speaking, but make no mistake, anyone siding with Destiny on this need to be in the big sus category, to say the least. Maybe you guys are better friends than I am, but if my friend ever admits to doing a cheeky bit of criminal sexual misconduct, I'm fucking dropping them on the spot. As with most stories of this magnitude, especially if lawsuits are involved, it might take years for us to see a proper conclusion to this entire mess. In the meantime though, the decent thing to do is to support the victims and be on a lookout for more people coming forward as the numbers are stacking up daily. I'll remind you guys about Pixie's Give Send Go campaign to help her out with the lawsuit. And because, as always, Destiny can't help being himself, mere days after this controversy took place, here we have DMs between him and someone he's flirting with, where he tells them that if they want videos of him, they just need to let him know because stuff's now leaked anyway. You know, in case you bought into the lie that these kinds of interactions are now behind him. As many of you might have noticed based on the video title and me mentioning this before, we've spoken about the abuser and we've spoken about the sweepers, but we spent relatively little time talking about the opportunists, the people who broke this story and the people who covered it like fantasy football and not like there was an actual victim involved. The reason for that is because I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I decided that I do not want to detract from the victims by going over more than their story, and perhaps the people who are defending Destiny and what he's done. There is going to be a follow-up video to this, where we do a deep dive into all of my qualms with how Pixie was done dirty, not just by Steven, but also by other people she trusted, and then done even dirtier still by those blinded by the green dollar sign of ad revenue. But for today, that will be it. Special thanks to my supporters, and if you guys liked me yapping, I highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel, to leave a thumbs up as well as a comment, and to join my Discord and my Patreon. Good night, and take care.